grand afternoon, and it's been a glorious beginning to that afternoon, and after a glorious day. True Brit news arc: why some need me to be dumb, wrong and stupid. This is going to be a long one, I think. Well, I've been trying to keep them short lately, but I felt the need to just do a longer one. And as I say, in every recording I've done since the start of the new year, I haven't done many, but I had some left over from last year to post that was still unposted, and a couple of three from this year, plus a new podcast, I suppose, that I've described as Unhinged Psychotherapy Unhinged. So I've got those recordings yet to post. So, as usual, and as I have not mentioned on all my recordings and postings, all of them are notice to principal, notice to agent. And as a public notice, so wherever cap fits, it relates to that, and it's evidence, I suppose, in any forthcoming restitutions or any forthcoming claims that are made based upon what's been discovered as a consequence of the release of the Epstein files. And not just the Epstein files, there are other files that are popping up all over the plains as the rain, or other lists then, such as the Rains list. I've gone all about that one, actually. That's been around quite a while. Not good. I can tell you that. The Rains list. There is the Mandelson list, and Mount Batty Boy, Windsor, he's got a list. Everybody's got lists of who it is that they're dealing with, and I suppose it's all routes lead back to Epstein. So the question is really for me, why are all these people dealing with, or what are the implications of all these celebrities, politicians, heads of organisations, NGOs, CEOs of major corporations, the billionaires and millionaires. Just to say, the other list is the Bohemian Grove list. Yeah, it's a real thing. But that's where the big money goes. The most powerful people. That's where your 80-year-olds go. 80-year-old financiers, and that's where the big money, the old money, as you would say, the inherited stolen money. That's where they go. And there's probably other groupings of people or that are on that meet, and there are lists of who they are and what it is the list pertains to in terms of the gathering of like-minded people, I suppose. So this podcast then, this recording, this whatever it is, it's about just, I suppose, my thoughts on this whole thing, because of things like what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm just processing, I suppose, making my own links and connections as I go along, as I try to make them, to make meaning and sense. But it all makes sense to me, but it's the meaning that I'm now realizing as I'm speaking, I suppose, that I'm interested in, I'm curious about. What does it all mean? Well, one of the things that that I'm realizing is actually what it means is that the governance that we've lived under. No, let me start here. Look, where do we? I mean, there's so many different places one could start. The meaning. What does it mean? It means you don't have to pay council tax. Well, you're paying council tax to people who fucking rape children and traffic children, torture children, eat children's faces. What's that all about? Why are we still being apologetic? So that's one of the meanings. So I'm getting. Why does it feel and seem as though I'm the only one who is outraged? Not just at, and not to be, what they've been doing in terms of harming children, trafficking children, torturing children. I mean, and now there's the shit coming out that they've been doing this underground across a number of countries, you know, on islands, doing there's harvesting going on at these places. I mean, I've spoken about it, I've written about it in posts over the years. Although I was aware of a lot of this information that is now coming out years ago. And when I say years ago, I'm going to say some of it, all the child trafficking stuff. I don't know. I think it's come strongly into my awareness about that, and because I'm aware of, is it RSA, ritualized sexual abuse, that in the last 5 years, in the way that it's now becoming apparent, but the scale of which, absolutely no idea. I'd heard rumours about people, you know, wearing the skins of children, making shoes out of their skins. I was aware of this, but only as a rumour, but also pitted with, or, you know, becoming or reading books or purchasing books. I haven't read this particular book, The Delectable Negro. Yeah, where they talk about cannibalism in there, basically, of slaves, so-called slaves, in the USA, in America, in the 1700s and 1800s and 1600s as well. So this cannibalism thing, I've believed, even though, you know, it's referenced in the Bible, all sorts of places, and it's been, subscribed or ascribed to particular groups of people. You know, usually brown and black skinned people. They're the ones that are doing all of this. You know, cannibalistic type behaviors. The Incas. What was it? Robinson. Not Swiss from Robinson. His name is Livingston. Going into deepest stuff. I think it's him. Deepest, darkest Africa, and talked about seeing people, the natives, the Africans eating people. It's not them at all. It's the ruling elite, the people that come up with our laws and enforce those laws, get us to do that we work for 40 hours a week, however, for 60 odd years, for 70 life expectation. You know, I could go on about that, but these are the people that we give our time to, our votes to. They've been eating and feasting and torturing, and with our children. And because we were children once, I was a child once, you know, so I was experiencing this, and in some ways didn't even know it, but knew, but accepted, became accepting of, groomed, if you like, to be accepting of brutal interpersonal relating, brutal and tyrannical and sadistic forms of interpersonal relating in all forms of human activity. You know, so it's all starting to make sense. You know, things like, you know, for me, you know, I'm starting to make meaning of why it is there isn't any anger or outrage, because there was none when there's been none for the Palestinians. All this while, you know, they've been getting blown up on our TVs nightly for a good year now. There's constant reports about, even though, you know, peace talks have been had and there's been a quietening down, but essentially the killing has gone on unabated in that area. And the outrage, if there was any outrage, if there was any protest, it ebbs and flows. I think there's something, well, I know there's something not okay about that ebbing and flowing. You know, so it's ebbed and flowed. And our outrage has become, at best, if there is any, performative. It's become apologetic. It's become as though we're onlookers to something that is happening over there, and there's no need for outrage, even though we may be feeling it, for it not to be expressed, which suggests to me, I mean, there's a lot of implications there, a lot of all things to consider, you know. So why would that be? You know, and I do consider that as a psychotherapist, and I consider it as a human being too. Why would it why, and I don't feel that I am if outraged, absolutely, but I think I don't know if there's a spot after that where it's just straight up and down, because they've got to go. You can't do that. There's no excuse for it. There's nothing. It's indefensible. You know, and supporting it is also indefensible. Yes, and I wanted to use the word ridiculous, but ridiculous sort of downplays, it diminishes something in the from the events, you know, from what has actually occurred. What's actually occurred? Well, we're talking about torturing fucking children, breeding children for torture, and by extension, you know, breeding. And actually, what I'm getting from the Epstein files, because yes, I do fucking read them. Yeah, I do some research. I'm not chatting about shit that I don't know about. You know what I mean? And all the stuff in there is allegedly. Now, cool, but you know, so you know, these are happenings. These are reports. These are statements, the witness statements of people's experiences, you know, of abuse. So I'm trying to cross the road here. Not very far, very narrow, but the mind can do it. But I'm not. You know what I mean? I might not be quick enough. Thing. Okay, here we go. Do that one. Forgot where I was now. Could have paused it actually. I remember to do that. One of my thoughts. I'll have to come back to it. To come back to me, I'm sure. I suppose. Yeah, the outrage, right on. People don't seem to mind. People are accepting of being governed by people we torture, traffic, trade, harvest children. I do remember some of the posts that I've made saying this, and I remember saying to many, all of my remaining friendships, I suppose, that, you know, what's it going to take? Is it going to take for us to see people eating people live on television before we wake up? You know, and what I mean by wake up, before there is some acknowledgement, there's something that says this is bullshit. The way that we are living is evil. We're living in that time that people have talked about, you know, biblically, is it Sodom and Gomorrah? You know, and we seem to be okay with it because there's no challenge. Those that are challenged are like my good self, you know, just by doing what I can, where I can, and when I've been able to, it's been met with high degrees of resistance. which makes no sense to me, if I'm perfectly honest. But that's what it is, and the meaning that I'm taking from this, you know, in some ways I have to resort to the knowledge that I've acquired from. No, you can't say that, you know, the books on and the reference material relating to psychiatry and psychology and psychotherapy are relevant, all, you know, but so it's with caution that I say when I use the word cognitive dissonance as a rationale for, you know, the experience that people might be enduring, you know, or for me to be able to comprehend why it is I don't get the lack of outrage, the lack of I mean, empathy fucking left the building years ago, as far as I'm concerned. People's capacity to be able to do that. I'm not interested in seeing things from other people's points of view, and I think that's also not, anyway, that's also a factor in all of this. So we're now, you know, there's a group or a collective consciousness to almost be unempathic towards even our own children. You know, we give them up to these systems that maneuver us towards, if you can get at every point, at every age, towards a meat grinder. Yeah, I said it. That's what it looks like to me, and we're okay with this. And because I'm not interested in being ground to meat by people who claim to have my best interests at heart, I'm making it absolutely 100% abundantly clear that is not their interest at all. Never has been. I mean, the COVID thing, ridiculous. The whole vaccination program, that, told you it was a crime against humanity, but you know, and people are worried about getting nailed, literally nailed, for their bad behaviour, for participating, for enabling, for facilitating this worldwide program of injecting people for their own protection under the guise of a health crisis that they had created. And actually, they didn't even create anything. There's nothing out there. It convinced everybody that, you know, there was something out there. And here we are. People have taken this shit, called it a vaccination meant to protect you, and they've put shit in it. They've put, the last thing I heard that was in there, HIV. Yeah, see, people can't fucking drive, man. Driving in the bus lane. Anyway. And that's the other thing that I'm noticing. You see, people are almost not becoming frantic, but the cognitive dissonance. I suspect within cognitive dissonance there comes a point where it just doesn't work anymore. You know, that you can ignore it even in the face of clear evidence to the contrary of that belief that you're still holding, you know, that you still operating by. You know, it no longer becomes an assumption, it becomes a truth that cannot be ignored. But people, you know, but you kind of like stay with it, you still to the bitter end. So, you know, there are only two ways out of this, you know, with that kind of mentality. to the bitter end. One is to the bitter end, even though people will know that the vaccine is bad. The government's telling you it's not good for you, but still pushing it at the same time, which actually demonstrates to me, and that's the fractionalization, of one holding the narrative amongst these people that have decided to put forward this program, but also the people that have enabled and facilitated it. So we're talking about universities, we're talking about policymakers, lawmakers that have created the legislation necessary for us to be poisoned. Yeah, the enforcers that are recruited to ensure that for any infractions to the lawmakers' laws and legal frameworks that they put everything in, that they come along and take your shit off you, fine you, put a lien on you, tax you. Put a tariff on you to get you to comply to something that I'll speak about myself. I'm beginning to realize that there are many people that I can see potential that people aren't happy with what it is that they're doing, but they're in so deep they continue to do it anyway. Or the conditioning, what we call conditioning, which is basically, see, I'm just realizing this now, because this classical conditioning and operant conditioning all have their roots in another operation, and it's a deeper way of how to make people do something that they wouldn't necessarily ordinarily do, or to stop doing something that they ordinarily do. So as an example, give up smoking as an example. What that actually requires is to stop that habit, or stop drinking, whatever it might be, whatever it is that you're addicted to. It's not the thing itself, it's the routines and patterns, you know what I mean? But it's also how you change those. You have to impress them on the onto the spirit, if you like, onto the psyche. You have to retrain the psyche. Now, I've known this for years with psychotherapy, and when I work with my clients, this is what we are actually doing. We're identifying what the issue is and what the elements of or the different aspects of that issue, or the addiction as an example. So if it's an addiction, what are the aspects of it? What makes it addictive? What makes you unable to detach from it emotionally, relationally, psychologically, spiritually, and also what it means. What's the meaning? What does it represent, this addiction that you have? What does it do for you? Again, emotionally, relationally, and psychologically. And once we be able to comprehend more deeply what... Sorry, I'm just coming across a funeral. Every time I go past there was a black funeral. I think mostly, a lot of the time. No, it is. Yeah, the way to curing it, the way to healing from it, is to comprehend those elements and their meaning and their impacts, and what the root of it all is. And once you start to understand it, you can then do something and be something different. You see it differently. Um, it's not easy work, but change never is. But that's what we're talking about. Change. Changing the way that we think, the way that we feel, changing the way you think and changing what you do affects the way that you feel. So you're just reconditioning the spirit to respond differently to the circumstances. That's the thing, the circumstances under which you might want to go for a fag. Or not necessarily just go for a fag, it might be about overindulging in cigarettes or overindulging in alcohol, overindulging in Jaffa cakes and chocolate biscuits, which is one of the things that I do when I'm feeling a bit stressed and a bit anxious and da-da-da-da. So for me, for the last 6 weeks I've just been chomping on chocolate biscuits, then I know that I'm stressed about something and I need to sort that out. You know what I mean? That's the way that I stop eating chocolate biscuits. It's not good enough. I know that I need to stop eating them. I just know, and my body's telling me I need to stop eating them because it's saying don't eat this. My body's not happy about it. Affects my thinking, affects my sleep. So stopping it, yes. Stop doing it, but you're only able to do that sometimes once you know what it is that you're wanting to stop, and you replace it with something else. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you do, replace it with a cream cracker, wean yourself off, all sorts of things. So 31 minutes, that's not too bad. But these are the things that have been lost. These are the things that have been known to academics to so they knew what they were writing, but they weren't, and I'm not actually too sure if it's a deliberate kind of not teaching teachers to teach this, or a capacity thing, an ability. So, because this is ancient knowledge that the people of how to be in relationship and its connections to, and how to get to a place of self-healing and an avoidance of disturbances to psychological contact, which are able to and work towards the opposite of that. Then that's where the healing begins. Till the next time, hopefully my musings, it's helped me a little bit actually. I might post this, I'm not sure. But till the next time, may your ERP and your spirituality remain strong. I'm gone.